Welcome to the Virginia Wetland Condition Assessment Tool, or WetCAT. This is the Getting Started and Assessing a Wetland tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll figure out how to find a wetland, change the base layer, determine a wetland stress condition, obtain information on a specific wetland, rescore a wetland, use the drawing tools, and how to print or export the information. So let's get started. In this particular legend here is our help and information tool, and it allows you to get more information on how to navigate around the website. And you can click on any of these to open up and get specific information on how to utilize it. So there's a number of different ones here. We can close this out, but if you need it for reference, you can always go over here and click on the eye and click on the help. So let's figure out how do we get to a wetland. So we can zoom in using the plus sign, or we can zoom out with the minus sign, or we can also zoom in using the mouse wheel. So we can zoom in closer here, closer and closer, as close as you need. And you can also then pan the image across too if you need to. But here, let's look at the base maps. In this particular instance, we'll pull up some of the different base maps. Right now we're using imagery, but we could come down and change it out for a topographic map or any of these other base maps that are available here, different options. But right now, let's just stick with the imagery, and we'll use that one. So let's close out our base layer here. And then we'll pull up the layer for our base maps, what I meant to say. And then we'll roll up our layers, and let's look at our National Wetland Inventory condition for these wetlands. So we click on that eye, and then we click on that, and it allows us to bring up particular types. And we're going to look at the wetland condition stress scores and display that layer. And we can zoom in a little bit. And let's say we want to select this particular wetland. We just click on it. And we bring up information about this wetland, its carbon classification, the amount of acres. And then we can look over here and scroll down a little bit, and we'll find its habitat and water quality stress condition scored over a number of years. And if we go down a little further, we can see how those scores compare to the overall HUC scores. So how this wetland compares in there. We can then also go over here and look at or draw a 200-meter buffer around that particular wetland and see what the surrounding land use is associated with that. And while we're here, we can pull up its contributing drainage to that particular wetland. And we can also do what's known as a rescore, or recalculate the score. So here is the actual surrounding land use presently. But if this is in both a 200-meter buffer around it, but also within the 200-meter of the contributing drainage area. And we can now go in and adjust these land cover, land uses, based on what the wetland impacts might be, or say a developmental impact, and might cause a reduction in the acres as well. And so we rescore that and get different habitat and water quality scores depending on what activity is taking place. So we close those out. Next, we can look at using some of the tools surrounding that wetland. For instance, this is our draw tool, and it allows us to draw a circle around with a specified radius, or we can actually do a polygon to determine area, or we can just draw a line and measure the measuring part of that line. So for instance, if we were interested in how far this wetland was from this road, we can just click that, draw our line, and up here we would get our measurement, and we would double click that, and that will give us that. And we can also look at putting a buffer around it of any type of specified distance if we want. Buffer that line as well. So let's close that out. An important part also is looking at how we get rid of these graphics if you wanted to start deleting them, removing. And so you can pick a number of different ones. And for instance, we want to get rid of the 200-meter buffer. Just click the little trash can, it goes away. Or you can go up and remove all the graphics. So let's do that. We'll click that off. We'll close this out here. And then we would also want to look at actually being able to print this information as well. And you can print it in a number of different formats and export it. And that'll show up here, the files that you've exported out. So close that out. And then finally we have the geoprocessing tools. These are more advanced tools for information about a specific wetland or area of wetlands. And those are the cumulative downstream and contributing watershed tools, which we will discuss in the second tutorial. So check that one out for more advanced work. In this tutorial, we learned about how to find a wetland, how to change your base layers, how to determine the wetland's stress condition, obtain additional information on a particular wetland, how to rescore that wetland, and how to use the drawing tool and how to print or export information.